Mr. Chancellor, President Ronte, Mr. Jackson, Chair of the Board, Carleton University graduating students, parents, friends, alumni, colleagues, and guests. As Chair of the Department of Biology at Carleton University, it is my great privilege to introduce this convocation's honorary degree recipient, Irwin Murray Brodo. Irwin Brodo is recognized as a world authority on lichens. He earned his Ph.D. in 1965 from Michigan State University and soon after moved to Ottawa as the research lichenologist at the Canadian Museum of Nature, where he worked for 35 years. After retiring in 2000, Dr. Brodo became an emeritus research associate at the museum, where he maintains an active research program today. As I understand, to Irwin, retire means that he no longer goes to work on Thursday. Over his career, Dr. Brodo has made major contributions to our understanding of the ecology and diversity of lichens and has dedicated tremendous energy in communicating this knowledge through more than 90 scientific research publications in books, popular articles, and public outreach initiatives. It should be noted that lichens are somewhat unusual life forms. A lichen is a composite organism, a closely interconnected community of fungi and algae, or photosynthetic bacteria that, as a whole, is recognizable as a biological entity. Lichens are nearly everywhere in the natural world. There are lichens growing just a few steps outside this building. And in some regions, lichens dominate the landscape. Dr. Brodo has described the incredible diversity of lichens from sea to sea to sea in Canada and from across the world. In the process, he has named more than 80 new lichen species and has 5 lichen species named after him, a testament to his contributions to the field. For this work, he has received research grants from agencies such as the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada, the National Sciences Foundation, and the National Geographic Society. He has served as president for organizations that include the International Association for Lichenology, American Biological and Lichenological Society, and the Canadian Botanical Society. His numerous awards include the George Lawson Medal from the Canadian Botanical Association for career contributions to botany and for his outstanding book, Lichens of North America, for which he also received a Henry A. Gleason Award from the New York Botanical Gardens. This book of 800 pages is beautifully illustrated, as much a work of art as it is an encyclopedia of lichens. Lichens of North America also exemplifies Dr. Brodo's accomplishments in popularizing lichenology for the general public. Not only has he given numerous presentations and courses at universities across North America and Europe, he continues to be an active contributor to outreach initiatives such as the Ottawa Field Naturalists Club and Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society, and has done numerous public lectures and radio and television interviews. And so, Mr. Chancellor, in recognition of a distinguished career in lichenology and scientific leadership in the international biosystematics community, I request that you confer the degree of Doctor of Science, honoris causa, upon Irwin Brodo.
By virtue of my authority, I confer upon you this degree of Doctor of Science, honoris causa. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Professor Smith, for those very kind and generous words of introduction. Chancellor Chi, President Runta, Chairman of the Board, Mr. Jackson, members of the faculty and of the graduating class of 2013, friends and guests. First, let me express my most sincere thanks to Carleton University and its Senate for this profound honor. I am very proud that now my wife, Fenya, and I are both officially associated with this great institution. Fenya got her Ph.D. here in entomology in 1984. Biologists often have a hard time getting attention as compared, for example, with nuclear physicists. Botanists tend to be even less conspicuous, and lichenologists are almost invisible. How then did I end up on this platform? No one was more surprised than I. Nevertheless, I'm extremely grateful for the recognition of the kind of work I do. Once I was at a party, and the host introduced me to a woman saying that I was a lichenologist. The woman's face brightened, and she said, "Oh, how exciting. You must have done a lot of traveling to study those beautiful paintings." But I always wondered if, and I had to interrupt her enthusiasm and explain that she misunderstood. I am a lichenologist, not an iconologist. I study lichens, not paintings. Her eyes glazed over and she said, "Oh, lichens, what are they?" Which is pretty much the story of my life. That is, I've spent a considerable percentage of my time explaining what lichens are to the public. But that was just a spin-off. Actually, I've spent my career in the world's oldest profession, which is, of course, taxonomy. We humans are a naming species because we are a communicating species. One of the earliest human endeavors while we were still in caves must have been to invent names for natural objects. Even the Bible relates that the first thing Adam had to do in the Garden of Eden was to name every living thing. Names are given to objects as a kind of shorthand for communicating all the explicit and implicit attributes of the object without listing them. If people need to have names for objects, it's important that the names are reliable and are used in the same way for the same object by everyone in the communication group. And that's where taxonomists come in. They are in the name business, ensuring that every recognizable organism has a name and only one name, and that it is used for the same organism by everyone. Taxonomy, then, is the foundation upon which other fields of biology rests. It is fundamental when trying to understand relationships between organisms and their evolution, and it is crucial to reliable, reproducible studies in physiology and medicine, as well as decisions made by environmental agencies and government. It would be reasonable to expect, therefore, that the field would be highly valued and assured stable and sufficient funding. This, unfortunately, is not the case, with taxonomic research projects often being among the first to be cut in times of restraint and taxonomists regarded as less desirable in the development of faculties of biology. Retiring taxonomists like myself are rarely replaced by other taxonomists, and the problem of finding experts capable of accurately identifying organisms is becoming crucial. It's becoming critical. Being able to identify organisms is also important for a less obvious reason. Knowing the name of a plant or animal makes you feel introduced to it. They become familiar, an old friend, so to speak. When plants and animals you encounter on a walk through a woods or a meadow become old friends, you are less inclined to allow them to be compromised or destroyed. Conversely, when you don't know the name of objects in the natural world, they become invisible to you, or at least merely part of the landscape. Now, birds make themselves obvious through song and color, so we seek out their names to be able to talk about them and find out more about them. But how about mosses, or mushrooms, or, and you see where I'm heading, the lichens? Once you're introduced to lichens and learn their names, they appear to be everywhere, even though you never noticed them before. Despite their many colors and forms, their abundance, and their importance in many ecosystems, lichens were largely ignored by the general public, even by experienced naturalists. One reason seemed to be that there was no easy way to discover their names. Now, Sylvia Sharnoff, a nature photographer from California, complained to me once that she was having a terrible time trying to name the lichens that she was photographing. There's no really good field guide for lichens with first-rate color pictures, she said. And almost in the next breath, she added, "So let's write one." After raising and gradually dismissing all the arguments against the proposal, the project was begun. It took 12 years to complete, but with Sylvia and her equally gifted husband Steve doing the photography and with me supplying the text, we were able to complete the book and thereby introduce lichens to a wide audience in North America and beyond. By the way, to make lichens more accessible to the casual observer, Sylvia, Steve, and I had to invent vernacular names for most of the 800 lichens illustrated in the book. And that was often hilarious fun, especially when we had to choose between competing common names such as fairy puke and versus candy lichen. We chose the latter one. It's been enormously gratifying to see so many people now incorporating lichens into their outdoor experience and enjoying them as we did. You may well ask, how does anyone get into the lichen naming business? You certainly couldn't call lichen taxonomy a booming field. Like so many professions, mine sort of crept up on me. My background certainly isn't the sort of thing that would point to a life of hiking up mountains, hopping over slippery coastal rocks, and camping in the boreal forest. I was brought up on the dusty streets of the Bronx in New York City, where the nearest forest was in the Bronx Botanical Garden. My father was a post office clerk and my mother was a bookkeeper. Most nice Jewish boys like me went into business, or if they had talent and money, they took up medicine or law. However, the Boy Scouts got me out of the city and reinforced my love of nature, which gradually morphed into a love of science. I was extremely fortunate to have had 3 truly inspiring teachers. The first was Joseph J. Copeland, a botany professor at City College in New York. I went to Cornell University for a master's degree in general biology with the aim of becoming a high school biology teacher. My major advisor was the renowned insect behaviorist Thomas Eisner, who showed me how exciting research could be. And with his encouragement, I decided to go for a Ph.D. At the very least, I would have fun traveling around chasing lichens, and the thesis work might produce something of lasting value, even if I ended up teaching General Biology 101. Not so terrible. I wrote to Dr. Mason Hale, who was the new curator of lichens at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C., and I asked him to recommend a place for a Ph.D. He advised me to forget the idea. He said, "There's only one job for a lichenologist in North America, and I have it." And he gave me the names of a few places, and I did apply. Now, I got the Ph.D. working with a fantastic lichenologist, Henry Imshog, and I eventually ended up with the second position for a lichenologist in North America at the Canadian Museum of Nature. The lesson? It may seem that there are few prospects out there, but for the few crazies with a passion and a focus who keep on trying, somehow it often works out. It may be in a peripheral field or something that leads to something else, but pursuing your passion is a good strategy for achieving a fulfilling career, and it certainly worked for me. Again, my sincere thanks go to the university for this singular honor. I must also thank my wife, Fenya, for her constant support, help, and love for over 50 years. I am also most grateful to the Museum of Nature for having given me the opportunity to follow my passion for almost 50 years and continues to do so. And finally, my best wishes for success, happiness, and peace go to all of you in this impressive graduating class. Thank you very much.